When you have a near-death experience, your body's compromised. You're now experiencing what is referred to as the other side. And I think once you touch that space in whatever way, you bring a piece of it back with you.
What's funny is, you're the first person I've talked to, and Tessa mentioned earlier about the whole near-death experience thing. I really don't talk to a lot of people. Like I said, world-class introvert here. But I had something similar when I was about 3 or 4 years old. I had a very traumatic experience where, actually it's kind of funny now. Do you guys remember those old mailboxes that kind of had like the metal hooks on the bottom, the 2 metal hooks where you put the newspaper in? I was about 3 or 4 years old, and I decided to play mailman. And I used my tricycle to try to put mail in the mailbox, but the tricycle slid out from underneath me. And one of those hooks actually went up through the bottom of my mouth and actually through my tongue and embedded itself, essentially in the base of my skull and the top of my mouth. And I hung there for God only knows how long until somebody found me, got me down, took me to a hospital. And funny enough, it was about that time, even as a little kid, like I started to notice these ghosts and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know that that's related, but I had another one when I was older. I actually drowned. I was a whitewater rafting guide in Pennsylvania, which is where I'm from. And I literally drowned. I passed out. I wasn't breathing. I came to on my own and, threw up all the water, but that was probably in my, early 20s. So it's been quite a while, but I remember it was almost like that made it worse, I guess you could say, or maybe better is the right word. I don't know. But you start noticing these things more and more and more, these ghosts, these spirits and everything. And that's one of the things that pulled me back into big time. And it's been 25 years or so. And, I've never really looked back. So there might be a correlation between this, you're dead. So maybe, coming back, you retain some kind of connection.
I think so.
Yeah,
I do believe that.
We did a whole live show. It was called Live with the Other Side. And what we focused on was near-death experiences, because both of us have had near-death experiences. And we brought in a couple people who have passed away literally for a certain amount of time and come back out of that. We also brought in a doctor who used to be an oncologist. So he was an oncologist for years. And through his work, he realized that a lot of his patients would have these experiences, and everybody was saying kind of the same thing across the board of what they would experience when they came back from possibly almost dying. So he started researching it. And I think he studied over like 5,000 cases or something along those lines. So we brought collectively like people who have had experiences, this doctor, and we talked about it, and it was fascinating. Like we learned a lot. And what you find is that most of these people, like when you have a near-death experience, your body's compromised. You're now experiencing what is referred to as the other side. And I think once you touch that space in whatever way, you bring a piece of it back with you. And I really don't know how else to explain it, but you now have like this connection that you didn't have before. And I think for everybody, we experience it differently. Like some people might have more dreams. They might see people a lot in dreams or premonitions, and other people quite literally see spirit directly in front of them. And so I do think that brush with the other side, it kind of creates a connection, or you bring a piece back with you. And I also think that that's what leads people into the paranormal and into wanting, answers and to understand more. I think that with Nick as well, like we had that conversation back when we met, and I said, it seems like you always had an interest, but after that happened, it really makes people question things and want to know more. So I do think everybody has that similarity.
Yeah, I do too.
I also think to a small degree, it's like once you have that connection, it's not just a matter of you not letting it go, if that's kind of how you want to look at it. But I feel like there's also like a side of it that doesn't let you go. There's been, I am not a medium at all. I am not a psychic. I'm probably a fairly slightly above average paranormal investigator myself, but I'm nothing to write home about. But over the years, there's been a lot of really weird things that have happened to me that I really don't have an explanation for, because I'm not asking for any of it. Like, for example, one of the things that I've been dealing with lately, I had a very, I don't want to get dramatic about it, but I had a minor heart operation a couple months ago. Doing fine. I'm going to be doing fine for a while. But ever since then, I would say at least 3/4 of the nights when I'm laying in bed, as I start to fall asleep, I start to have like these visions and stuff and things talking to me, which on their own, you could just write that off 100 different ways. But there are times where it's so vivid where I'm like, fuck this. Like, so I'll pull out a voice recorder and put on my headphones, and the EVPs that I'm getting are a continuation of what was happening in my head as I was trying to fall asleep. And that's where it starts to get weird. I'm like, wait a minute, this is literally, we're having the same conversation that was in my head as I was trying to fall asleep on this voice recorder very clearly. And like I said, I'm not asking for it. I'm not going out of my way to try to have that connection with whatever that is. It's almost like it seeks me out from time to time. And I have no idea how to explain that.
Yeah. Well, spirit, how do I explain this? I always refer to people who have had near-death experiences or somebody with an ability like mine as a lighthouse in the dark to spirit. So whether you're a medium or not, you don't have to be a medium to be able to see or pick up or hear spirit. But if you have some sense of an ability in you, or you've had a brush with death at some point in your life, you become a lighthouse in the dark to spirit, and they know that they can somehow get to you. Like, they know that you can either hear them, feel them, see them. And so that makes them come to you. So like as a kid, there was a point in time where they were coming to me at night specifically so much that I just couldn't sleep. I was having, I could hear them, I could see them, I could feel them, and it became so overwhelming. And so that's why I think it's cool now, though, that we have kids and we're able to kind of work with them and help them through what they're experiencing as well, because we didn't necessarily have that help growing up. But it's interesting because you're saying like sometimes you can't avoid it. They're coming to you, and it's because they know that you can sense them or feel them. And maybe there's a message that they want to get across, or maybe they just want to literally say hi, so that's why I always talked about boundaries and things, especially when investigating. And even when you're trying to go to sleep, like to put a boundary up for yourself to where you're like, I'm trying to sleep. You got to chill for a minute. I'll talk to you when I wake up, but like, let me sleep. So I do think boundaries are very important as well.
If you enjoyed this clip from the Ghost City podcast, be sure to check out the full episode right here on the Ghost City Tours YouTube page. Subscribe to our channel for new spooky content every week.